Hi, and thank you for joining us. We begin with significant escalations in the fighting between the U.S. and Iran. The U.S. launched more strikes today than at any other point in the fragile ceasefire between the two countries. U.S. Central Command says it hit roughly 90 targets, including missile storage sites and air defense systems. Iran has responded by targeting U.S. military installations across the Middle East, including in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it launched 10 missiles at a military base in Jordan, which were intercepted. The latest escalation follows President Trump saying the ceasefire is over, and he's unsure he even wants to make a deal with Iran at this point. But the president claims Tehran wants to make a deal badly. The violence has once again slowed commercial traffic through the Strait of Hormuz to a near standstill, limiting the amount of oil that can move through the critical maritime shipping lane. The new strikes coincide with the final day of the funeral procession for Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed the first day of the war. Iran says millions of people poured into the streets. Khamenei arrived at the country's holiest shrine for his burial today. Iran has condemned the U.S.'s attacks during the country's days of mourning. For more, let's bring in CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata. Charlie, these aren't the usual exchanges that we have seen. How serious are these recent escalations?
Yes, this is not usual by any measure because we have reported about sort of tit-for-tat strikes and retaliation for a number of weeks now. But the last serious confrontation came about 10 or 11 days ago, June 26, when the U.S. military struck 10 Iranian military targets. What we've seen in the past couple of days, 2 days ago, they hit 80. As you just reported, 90 in the past 24 hours, 170 between them. So this is a dramatic escalation. And U.S. officials that I spoke to said they're specifically targeting Iranian positions along the Strait of Hormuz and along the coastline south of there, the mouth leading to the Strait of Hormuz, if you will. And they've been very specific about this when I've asked what they're targeting in terms of radar sites, missile launch pads, hidden coves that they've been trying to reach, because the question continues to be, with the amount of airstrikes that the United States has launched against the Strait of Hormuz, how is Iran still capable of pretty much at will aiming at commercial vessels, which started all of this off. This started after Iran took aim at 3 commercial vessels with missiles and drone strikes. And they were actually over in Oman, so it was across the Strait of Hormuz, but within easy reach. The Iranians have retaliated in ways that we haven't seen in recent weeks with missiles, as you said, 10 missiles fired into Jordan. That's kind of new, hitting the usual places like Kuwait, or at least trying to hit places like Kuwait and Bahrain. Those were intercepted too or fell short of their targets. Spoke to U.S. officials. There hasn't been any significant damage to any U.S. military facilities in that region. But this is a dramatic escalation, and we need to pay attention to this because there has been this constant grind of tit-for-tat attacks. This is not that.
So you brought up a good point. Why is it so difficult for the U.S. to claim control of the strait? And what else is there left for the U.S. to target?
Well, first of all, you know, the United States can retarget some of these places. They do not want to see Iranian forces reconstituting, which they have been trying to do during the ceasefire, in the same way that the United States has been reloading and repositioning, taking an opportunity of at least a turn down in the intensity of attacks. But the Strait of Hormuz is difficult for a number of reasons. It has, the topography is one of them. There's a mountain ridge line. The Iranians are second to none when it comes to tunneling and hiding and moving armaments and munitions around, including missiles. And some of those are mobile missile launchers, too. And General H.R. McMaster said this morning that the Iranians may have reconstituted 50% of their missile capacity since before the conflict began. So that's just one indication. And, you know, when it comes to launching these drones, it's like whack-a-mole. They come in on these small vehicles. They're able to hide in the mountains, in the trees. They launch, and by the time they launch, it's kind of, you know, they've done the damage, as it were. So it's also very difficult to patrol that area because, you know, we have seen U.S. aircraft in peril, including a number of surveillance drones and Striker Reaper drones that have been shot down by Iranian air defenses. So they're still fully capable of launching these strikes, and they have been very difficult to eliminate. And I also have to reiterate here that this even in the strikes that we've seen, it's nowhere near the kind of intensity we saw during the full force of full combat. And even back then, the United States was unable to break Iran's siege of the Strait.
Charlie Daggett, thank you.
Thank you.